So under the FISA Act, which Kevin just laid out, came into play first in the 70s and was designed originally to monitor communications between domestic sources and people in other countries, right? So this allowed the NSA, the CIA, assuming some of these entities, to intercept communications. Okay, let's see.
Soviet, largely.
Let's see if anything bad's going on here.
It really comes out of the Church Committee, Frank Church, Democrat, those hearings which were spurred by what happened at Watergate, some of the leaks there, some of the information that came out, and there was a decision made that the Congress, and particularly the Senate, had not been doing its oversight properly. And so that's where we got the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence. That came out of that. You also saw the executive order banning assassination, and you saw the institution that we now know as FISA, the FISA Court, as well as the FISA Act. So
regarding these communications, though, as Kevin just laid out, that changed in 08, and the intelligence community was then able to monitor domestic to domestic communication, right?
We have a full screen we could throw up, actually, to give just sort of a very basic overview of what FISA does here. Again, 1978 is when it was created. It oversees requests for surveillance warrants against suspected foreign intelligence agents. 11 judges, and of course the proceedings are secret. But this stretches back a long ways. I mean, this is a discussion about transparency and the need for national security that's been a long-standing debate. In fact, we could play a clip that's particularly fiery on this issue, going back to the origins of the FISA court days.
The Intelligence Committee said today that the CIA illegally opened and read the mail of several prominent Americans, including one letter to Richard Nixon. It occurred during a 20-year program of intercepting mail crossing the Iron Curtain. The man who ran that program, James Angleton, testified today. Daniel Shore reports.
Slowed down a bit by ulcer medication, Angleton, the legendary counterintelligence chief, had no apology to make for an admittedly illegal 20-year program of opening mail between the U.S. and Russia.
SC, so now we've seen that was at one point. The concern was that people were reading mail, literally reading mail, you know, the old school mail, snail mail we call it, right?
Right.
Based on these released statements, declassified, saying that there have been some, maybe at least one, that's what they say, at least one time the Fourth Amendment has probably been twisted or violated by FISA. Do you think that it was probably just one? Do you think that it's broader than this?
Since I don't know exactly what we're talking about, I mean that sincerely, and I think where you were going here is where my head is going. No, in all seriousness, we don't know what we're talking about here. And I think where you were going to go is, if this started out as a way to monitor communication with foreign agents, this I'm completely okay with. If it somehow shifted to domestic agents, well, then that opens up some real concerns. And I think that's probably where we're getting nervous here. But again, I don't know what we're talking about.
And that seems
entirely
to be the suggestion from the FISA court.
Right.
This program, as Kevin had pointed out, changed in 08 and allowed domestic-to-domestic communication to be intercepted. And the FISA court, now what we've learned, as you pointed out, Buck, through Senator Wyden, has suggested that has gone above and beyond what it was supposed to have done.
They've admitted one violation of the Fourth Amendment. That's what the cleared statements show us.
And that's know what.
Is there any consequence to that?
We don't know what. There can't be consequences because there's no transparency into the process. And as he laid out, I believe at one point, the fact of the matter is they won't even tell us how many times this is used. And they're clearly very secretive about it, is hardly stating it. I mean, this is all classified and it's all kept out of the public view under threat of prison time for people.
Right.
So they're very serious about this issue. But how can the Congress exercise its oversight responsibilities if the Congress gets statements like what we put up on the screen, which is that one time we think it violated the Fourth Amendment, but other than that, we think it's cool?
Well, here's my question. This was the statement that was cleared by our government for Senator Ron Wyden to tell the public, correct?
Right.
So presumably he knows more than that sentence.
Of course.
Right. We don't know what Section 702 is. I don't know what that is, and he doesn't explain it. But one clue here to me that would suggest it is a sincere problem, a real problem, is that Senator Ron Wyden is a Democrat, and he is investigating a Democratic administration. And, that this is going on under Barack Obama's leadership, and he has concerns about it. So it seems to me at least the partisan tit for tat is off the table, and we can really look at this in terms of its substantive problems.
But the people who usually be screaming from the hilltops about how wrong this is and how scary this is in government overreach tend to be left of center, and right now they're pretty quiet about it because Barack Obama is the president, and they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to cause issues. So I think that there is sort of a partisanship to it. But again, this is very little information, and it has to do with a very broad issue.
Without specifics, it's bizarre. hard
like details without details.
Right.
But we will never get those details.
It's like a tease.
Unless we ask for the details, unless we say, hey, we need more information. I mean, this is the camel's nose in the tent, I think, for some people. This is showing that the Fourth Amendment can be violated by FISA, and if that's the case, maybe we should know more about FISA. So we don't have situations where we're discussing FISA and people realize we don't really know very much about FISA.
Right.